Welcome to what we call the follow-up web extra, the after show. Art Lewis from WSGW joins us again. Going to talk a little bit about the tariffs, the trade wars. Just this week, President Trump threw another one out there at China on the tariffs. And last I checked, we're getting $500 billion worth of goods from China, and we're sending over about $150 billion. So the president will say this is such a great thing for fair trade and so forth, but not so, right?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I think there's two avenues here. The first thing we have to look at is why this has all happened. That's on us, the American public. We insist on cheap, cheap, cheap. We don't want value. We want cheap, cheap, cheap. Well, we're getting cheap, cheap, cheap. That's what you get. And that's why all this product is coming into the United States and less is going out. So what happens now? President comes along and says, wait a minute, we've got all these free trade agreements, but we don't have any fair trade agreements. Because the free trade we've negotiated is anything but fair. So let's start with the big one, NAFTA. He's brought Mexico to the table, and they've agreed on a new compact. Canada's not going to be far behind. The European countries are waiting. They've even talked about no tariffs. So China is next. What happens with these trade wars, if you will, and that's what we're seeing.
Sure.
He puts on a tariff, they retaliate with a tariff. He puts on. Eventually, he has judged that it's going to hurt their economy more than our economy, and he's probably right. Mm-hmm. I would expect at some point of time, China's going to come to the table and say, okay, let's stop this and let's sit down and talk.
Right.
Because if it hurts their economy, and their economy was already hurting,
sure.
If it hurts their economy very much more, they're going to come crawling to the table.
Right.
They won't put that on publicly. You won't see that face, but that's the face that's going to be there. So I give him credit for bringing the issues to the table. He may not like the way he's going to do it. It may cost us a little money because of these tariffs for a while. But again, it's been on us. We're the ones that have caused it. The government hasn't been good at negotiating. We're all going to pay the price for a while.
Right. I'll just say this to add that in the short term, yes, we're going to probably pay a little more. I saw an article today in regards to the automakers are concerned because we're getting a lot of auto parts from them. And in time, that could drive up the cost of the entire vehicle. Maybe not 25%, because that's going to be eventually where the tariff's going to be, I think, in another month or two. But that's going to hurt sales if the overall cost of the vehicle goes up. They've also talked about agriculture, soybeans. They can go elsewhere for soybeans. They don't need our soybeans. So the farmers, the automakers, at least in the short term, may be hit.
Well, they say they can go elsewhere for soybeans, and they can to a degree, but they still want our agricultural products. The world still wants our products. So I'm not as pessimistic as some people about it. I'm willing to pay a little bit more for the short term.
Yeah.
But the other side of that, the automakers making those parts, they could bring them home and make them. It won't cost them 25% more. Yeah, we might have to pay 5, 6, 8% more, 10% more. But think of the number of jobs. Think of what it means to our economy to bring some of that work back to the United States.
Sure. What's interesting, this is what he campaigned on, one of many things, that I'm going to go out there, I'm going to get this done. Some people don't like it, but he's doing what he said.
Well, he's in his wheelhouse with
Absolutely.
This is his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Some of the other stuff that he's gotten involved in, not so much. But this is in his wheelhouse.
Right. Well, we'll see how it plays out. Thanks for coming in tonight. Appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. Thanks, Mike.
And thank you for joining us.